Hello everybody. I know it has been quite a while since I posted my last video, but here we are discussing more weather, and it's been a year, almost 2 years since I've last discussed weather, but of course, here we are yet again, and as this big storm dawns upon us, I am back with some more information. Of course, I won't just only be talking about weather on this channel, it'll still be the same topics as you've seen in the intro. Except for maybe TV reviews. I don't know if I'm actually going to do that. I mean, I might do it eventually, but I've gotten less interested in that over the years. But definitely some road trip videos, definitely some weather videos, and I'm going to plan on doing some animations and stuff like that too. I don't know exactly what I'm going to do, but I'm going to try to do some stuff. But there's a lot of things I have planned for this channel in the future. But that's besides the point. We need to start talking about the storm. I will be doing a live stream later today and then tomorrow as well on this storm, and it has been a while since I've done a live stream as well. It's been slightly more recent. I don't think I've made videos as recently. But probably around 7 p.m. tonight, I'm going to start my live stream, maybe a little bit earlier, probably around 6 p.m. Eastern time, that is. Eastern Standard Time. And it'll probably end around, I guess, 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Maybe a little bit earlier, like 10 p.m. So we'll see how long it goes, just to give you guys a heads up. And then the stream tomorrow will start at around 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, where you guys will actually be able to see the snow in my area, which may give an indication for what the snow will be like in other areas, so hopefully that will work out. And also, it'll probably end a little bit later, like it'll be a longer stream, probably around 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So, anyways, without further ado, let's get into the video. Okay, so here we begin with our temperatures. Now, our temperatures are going to be important because they're basically going to cause this whole system to feed off of the temperature and then create the snow from it, and as well as the ice, as well as the rain, and even some of the thunderstorms. So, first off, we are going to look on pivotal weather for this temperature change. You can see it is very cold across the US right now, and it's just going to get even colder. If you look up about 12 hours from now, you can see as it enters into nighttime, those freezing temperatures are going to continue to dawn upon us as they continue to move south. You can see -4. These are not wind chills, by the way. This is the actual temperature. So it is going to be -4 degrees Fahrenheit in Minneapolis, going to be up to -11 degrees Fahrenheit in my notes in North Dakota, and it will be slightly warmer to the west, of course, because the trough is moving towards the east, but it's still going to be very colder than usual, especially during even the winter time. You can see the warmest area in this region right now, besides Florida, because it always is the warmest, is the Florida Panhandle, which is Florida, and also southern Alabama, which reaches up to 63 degrees Fahrenheit. However, this is where the warm sector is, and that's why we're going to experience mostly rain in that area from tonight. As we continue to move on, you can see there is some warmer temperatures trying to head into Tennessee, and that is going to cause that transition from ice into some freezing rain, and as well as rain. So that might be a brief stop from freezing rain, which of course is pretty dangerous in of itself, but we might see some more rain out of this system. Now, eventually, as we head into tomorrow, you can see a very big warm sector start to develop near New Orleans, southern Mississippi, southern Alabama, and you can see that might actually cause some thunderstorms and maybe even the potential for some tornadoes. It's not going to be a large potential, of course. It's going to be very small, but tomorrow we are expecting some thunderstorms to develop, as we have seen a 2% risk added to the SBC outlook for tomorrow. I'll show you more on that later. But you can see a front develops, and you can see that big cutoff through Alabama into Mississippi and through the very edges of Louisiana. You can see that develop, and the temperatures quickly go down, even if we do see 70-degree temperatures for a brief moment in Mobile, Alabama. But you can see in the rest of the US, it is still freezing cold. Now, especially in the areas that will be experiencing the snow later on Sunday, like in the northeast, you can see a big amount of cold air still overspreading the area. And even down into North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia, where some of the ice will be, it is below freezing, so that means we still will experience ice. Of course, back here in Oklahoma, Texas, Arkansas, Mississippi, and Tennessee, all those states, we are still experiencing cold temperatures, but the precipitation will mostly be done at that point. So we're not really expecting much. But you can still see the cold temperatures overspreading the United States into the late afternoon, into the night, and you can see it gets really cold over the next few days. This is the NAM 3K. Of course, we can go further, but this is after the storm right over here. After pretty much all areas have left the storm. This, of course, isn't that cold because it's about the afternoon. It's still the warm of the day. But if we go back to the most previous cold of the day, you can see we have very cold temperatures overspreading the area, especially in the north central plains. You can see -10 near Fargo, North Dakota, -8 near Minneapolis, -9 near Duluth. And then if we check the wind chills, let me just find that up here. Wind chills. Just give me a moment. Oh, there. So the wind chill index, you can see it is absolutely freezing. -27 wind chills in Duluth, Minnesota. And the only warm area that is left is, of course, New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, where we might get a slight transition into freezing rain. I do expect that. I know some people haven't really been talking about that or expecting that. However, the models have been changing recently to have a little bit of warm air in my area, especially. So we will be experiencing some freezing rain and some even sleet and some possibly rain. I don't really think rain, but it'll mostly be sleet, freezing rain that'll decrease the snow totals. But what about the actual precipitation? Of course, we've only been looking at what the stuff is like in the temperature. However, there's much more we can go over. So first of all, here is a precipitation outlook. What is going on right now? Well, actually, if we look at what is going on right now, there is, let me just get rid of these cyclone port things. You can see that there is quite a bit of precipitation, and if we go over to the warnings, and let me turn them on, you can see there is a ton of warnings in effect, and mesoscale sessions, well, 3 of them. You can see there is basically winter storm warnings covering half of the United States, which is insane to think about. That really shows how big this storm is. And you can also see that there is some extreme cold warnings. You can see up here, I believe those are snow squall warnings. No, those are just extreme cold warnings. They have, like, the same color on Radar Omega. But basically, you can see some of the ice storm warnings as well, and for some reason we have some flood warnings over here. I'm pretty sure that's just from the snow and ice melting, but either way, this is a huge storm, and there's no denying about that. But what are the current conditions going? You can see where these mesoscale discussions are, which are mostly for ice. You can see there is some ice developing in Shreveport up to Pine Bluff, Arkansas, and it's not really determined if it's ice or sleet on Radar Omega, but you can see that it is some difference in precipitation there. Usually, I think this is just based on temperature, so I don't know if it actually is ice or maybe even rain, but you can see that there definitely is some ice overspreading the region, and some of it heavy at times. You can also see up here, you can see past Little Rock to the east, you can see some ice all along the Mississippi River Delta, and then into Memphis. That is where the snow-ice cutoff line is. You can see a bit of a transition over here. Let me just make this a little larger because it's kind of small on the screen. You can see that there is some increase in precipitation all across the western Tennessee area. Now, further up to the north, near Nashville, you can see some very heavy snow. Those pink colors indicate very heavy snow, besides the ice. And it's a small little gap here east of Nashville. I think that's just from the radar. But you can see it is overspreading the area, and definitely a big storm for all of us. It hasn't really reached up to the north yet, you can see. It has reached St. Louis a little bit, but definitely not in those areas as much as we thought. But some areas that might be overperforming a little bit include Oklahoma City, because you can see there's some snow squalls developing on the backside of the storm. We initially thought there was going to be some sort of gap in between the first storm to the east and the second storm to the west. Yes, they are different storms. Technically, they're kind of combined, but they really are the different storms, because one of them is like a trough moving across the eastern United States, and one of them is a trough that kind of is coming from the Pacific Northwest. I'll show you guys later more about it, but that's generally what we're looking at. So you can see there's some snow squalls developing near Oklahoma City, and that might overperform the amount of snow that we will end up seeing. So that will be very interesting to see our final snow totals. And you can see there's some very heavy snow over here near Wellington, Texas. So if anybody lives in that area, they must be experiencing a lot of snow. And of course, ice is still in this area too, down in Texas, up into New Mexico. You can still see some ice overspreading the area, and that will cause some dangerous conditions. So, going back to our models, this is the NAM3K. You can see that there is quite a bit of precipitation in the area. It's not really showing the snow squalls and stuff in Oklahoma and Texas that well. It's mainly showing the sleet. I guess it mostly is sleet in Tennessee, Mississippi, Louisiana, Texas, Oklahoma, and Arkansas. As we continue to move this forward, we can see that there is the increase in snow in western Tennessee, but also the northern trajectory of that freezing line. You can see some ice starts to develop in Mississippi, Alabama, and Louisiana. And you can see that's where the ice storm warnings are. Let me just press on one of these. 1 and 2 inches of ice accumulations. Oh, wait, no, my bad. That was the snow and sleet accumulations. Ice accumulations between 1/2 and 1 inch are possible. Now, let me just put this in perspective for you guys. 1 inch of ice is horrible. It just causes absolute devastation in whatever area it precipitates on. And you know that it can cause power outages. I mean, it's similar to what we saw in Texas in 2021. I'm not going to compare events because I know that's never really a good idea. One person's experience is very, very different from another person's experience. I'm just trying to give some representation. But I will say this might be the biggest ice storm in years. I think almost ever. I mean, really, in these areas, this is extremely rare. Especially in Mississippi, Alabama, and Louisiana, this is extremely rare. With how south it's going, this is extremely rare. I mean, we are expecting a little bit of ice in Mexico. I mean, of course, that's probably not going to happen. Or if it does happen, it's only in the mountains where nobody lives. But just putting into perspective how dangerous this ice storm really is. And we really got to pay attention to what this might do. It is a serious problem. It may cause power lines to go down. I know a ton of people have heard about these exploding trees. Now, I don't fully get it myself, but basically, they're not exploding. They're just opening a little bit. And that might cause the trees to fall down. It's kind of weird. That is actually mostly where it is colder, not really due to the ice. So, it's kind of unrelated, but I just wanted to mention that briefly. You can see, as we continue to pull this forward, the ice continues and enters into Tennessee, and there the rain starts moving north. That is, of course, due to the warmer temperatures, the warm sector that is being brought up by the front, and that will cause some elevated risks for severe weather, too. If we zoom into this area, here, let me just, it doesn't let me keep zooming in. Let me just wait until it shows the severe weather. You can see there is a bit of precipitation that is like a line, almost like a front, kind of near the ice too, near the low pressure system that is heading into Louisiana. Now, this isn't super conducive for tornadoes or anything like that. If we look at some of the conditions that would be good for tornadoes, you can see the most unstable cape. We do have some, we have about 900, maybe even 1,000 joules per kilogram, which is notable, but not quite up there to where it really gets the storms going. You can also look at the bulk shear, and that is pretty high, but not especially high in this area. We can see up to 70 knots, which is still quite a bit, but it's not especially high in that area. So, one thing to note, there could be some shear and some cape, so there could be the potential for tornadoes, but the main problem is going to be strong winds. And as we continue to look here, you can see it's mostly a frontal system. It may transition to a bit of a semi-supercellular event in Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and Florida. But even with this, it's not necessarily going to be too harmful to anyone. But as we move northeast into the northeast, you can see this is where the sleet kind of moves north. So you can see the entire state of New Jersey is in sleet or rain, and that might ruin the chances for snow for a lot of people. Not entirely. I'm just saying for a foot of snow. That's what the National Weather Service is saying. 10 to 14 inches if it is all snow. So we are continuing to push this out. You can see a little bit of a dry slot over eastern Pennsylvania, western New Jersey over there, but that only lasts for an hour. I don't know if that's been a trend or something. Let me just see. No, there's not a newer one. But you can see the problem with this, the reason why it's so much sleet is because the low pressure system is right off the coast here. And the low pressure system is far north. Usually, low pressure systems have cold air wrap around the northwest corner of it. And this is barely the northwest corner. So therefore, you can see why there isn't a lot of snow in that region. Now, the snow won't end there. We will get some snow on the backside, but it really isn't looking good for areas in the southern northeast, the mid-Atlantic, like Philadelphia, New York City, even Washington, D.C. Definitely not Washington, D.C. at this point. And you can see it also ends earlier on this Model 1, but this is just one model. If we go back to the HRRR and look at 12Z, you can see, let me just push out to where we were, you can see the snow in the northeast and those areas start at around, I would say 5 a.m. on Sunday, so the early morning, and you can see it isn't heavy at first, but it quickly grows, and you can see the rain in this corridor, where the warm sector is, might ruin a lot of chances for people too. It goes all the way into West Virginia, although to be honest, it would have been ice otherwise. So this is almost a good thing if we don't see more ice, even though there will still be ice on the eastern side near North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, where we are expecting quite a bit of ice. You can see as we continue to move on, the snow remains heavy in New Jersey and Pennsylvania and New York and all those areas. And you can see the sleet does make it up to New York City, but it's definitely not as intense and changing the snow into smaller amounts as much as it was in the previous model. You can see we might get much more snow out of this because of that. And even if it isn't as heavy, and even if it ends earlier than what we were initially expecting, this still is going to be a big storm, and I do expect that many schools and many companies, many workplaces will close on Monday. That is pretty much what we're all expecting. I don't know about Tuesday. I don't think it's going to be that bad on Tuesday, but Monday for sure, even if it doesn't snow the day of. So please be careful on the roads and any sort of pavements as throughout the day on Monday, even when it isn't snowing. Now let's look at the total precipitation, the total snow. So over here, we are expecting up to 19 inches near Evansville, Indiana. That is a lot. And realize it has snowed a little bit already in those areas, so it's probably going to end up being 20 inches in total. This is by the end of the model run of the HRRR, and you can see it spreads all the way into southwestern Pennsylvania, where you see a foot of snow. You can also see a foot of snow near Boston, Massachusetts, and into Connecticut and Rhode Island, and that will also cause lots of issues as it becomes a nor'easter. Now, in Oklahoma, we aren't expecting much, of course, due to that gap, but it probably will overperform due to what we're seeing now, so I would say more like 9 to 10 inches near OKC. And down here into, I don't know what this is, down here into, down here into New Mexico and Texas, you can see in the Guadalupe Mountains quite a bit of snow, 12 inches. So we are expecting quite a bit. New York City, you're probably going to get around 11 inches, so about a foot, what the National Weather Service is expecting. We are expecting quite a bit of snow, and this will be a storm for the ages, just due to how widespread it is. I'm not saying it's going to be record-breaking or anything, because this snow isn't extremely far south, or it isn't extremely heavy, but it definitely will be up there. It'll be up there in terms of snow. What we are mainly worried about is the freezing rain. Let's look at the freezing rain. This is just horrible. I mean, I know people think that they can survive this, you can survive this as long as you don't drive. But, yeah, this is bad. I mean, it's gonna be very cold, and there's gonna be the power out. So, I think this is gonna cause lots of problems, especially with how cold it's gonna be. And that might cause people to be freezing in their homes because the air conditioning will be going out. I just wouldn't underestimate this storm. Now, this might be overdoing it. I mean, 2 inches in Mississippi, I don't think we've ever had that anywhere. So, I don't think that's gonna happen. But it will be insane in Mississippi and Tennessee. It will be insane. I think an inch is most likely. Over here in the Northeast, there can be a little bit of ice, but we're not necessarily expecting a lot. Not dangerous enough. Let's look at some of the other models with their ice accumulations. The GFS, I think, still works here, but it's not portraying it the best. I mean, it shows it in western Tennessee a little bit, almost 2 inches as well. I think where it's pinpointing the ice accumulations in Georgia and South Carolina, that works. I think it's a good example. I think it's around an inch. I think that makes sense. But it definitely is not, it's not going to be good there. And let me just show you the temperatures that it's going to be late Tuesday. Let me find where late Tuesday is. I'm just going to show you what it's going to be late Tuesday, because it's going to be cold, and that is not good. You can see on the ECMWF, let me just find the temperature here. It is going to be freezing. You can see it gets to the negative temperatures in New York City, which I don't know when that has last happened. It's been a while. And you can see Indianapolis, negative 12 degrees Fahrenheit, and it's going to be freezing down to Florida again. I know this has happened before, but in this ice storm, you are not going to play around with that. This is very intense cold. And I don't know what you're going to have to do to stay, stay warm in this temperature, but it's going to be difficult, and the power's going to be out for potentially a week, so please be careful, bundle up, please stay warm wherever you are in the Southeast. And even in the Northeast, where the ice isn't really terrible, you can still see unbelievable cold, so that will definitely cause some very intense conditions. Now, one thing I do have to say with this winter storm, many people are saying this will be the storm of the century. Many people are saying this is going to be an insane storm. I think that too, but it's going to be weird. I think what we've seen with the storm recently is that even if it is a big storm, it's going to be hard to compare to other storms, of course. And the reason for that is because, well, it's like the weather's changing a lot, and it's gonna be different from other storms. Every storm is different, so I don't know if it's really gonna be a similar to storm to any of the big storms we've seen before. I feel like it might be less snowy than the other ones. I feel like it's up there for big snowstorms, but I feel like everybody's overreacting just because they see a bunch of cold on the US map or a bunch of snow. It probably will not be horrible for you. Just please make sure to take proper precautions, because usually what makes these bigger storms so devastating is because people don't take the proper precautions. So that's the main thing here. Please take your proper precautions, and please be okay and safe out there. But anyways, guys, that's about it for this video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I try not to be biased towards anyone specifically, maybe just my own area because, I live there. But I tried to get everybody into this video. I tried to get everybody's information here. So hopefully you understand what's coming for you and don't overestimate or underestimate the storm. But anyways, guys, that's it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please make sure to subscribe, turn on notifications. If you don't know what the notifications are, they're right next to the subscribe button when you hit subscribe. Also, make sure to like this video. I don't care if you dislike. If you really didn't like this video, fine, dislike. But anyways, guys, it's always difficult in these situations to really understand what's going on and to really be safe. But you know one thing? It's always good to be safe on the Maury's Data on the Road freeway. Thank you, guys.